Hey guys, this is the HolocronVault Episode 1, recording from I'm Jordan. I'm Lachlan Hermiston. I'm really excited to get into the backbone of Star Wars with you and delve deeper. With me are co-hosts Matthew Madnat and Aiden Beasley.
Hey guys, this is Matthew, and really excited to be discussing and just talking about Star Wars with you guys and sharing it with the rest of you out there. Aiden?
Hey guys, I'm Aiden. Excited to get started.
Good. Well, first off, since this is our first episode, I want to kind of explain the structure of how this is all going to work. There's 3 sections: the intro, the main discussion, and the ending closing section. In the intro, we're going to discuss kind of news, just a bit of news, and see our opinions on that. I'm also going to say what the main discussion is going to be. That's a small part of the show. Then we're going to get into the discussion section where we pick a topic and discuss that and talk about that with you guys. Finally is the closing section where we're just going to kind of recap the discussion. Also, we're going to have a quote of the week, fact of the week, and we're also going to ask you guys a question which you can respond to by emailing us. We're going to state the answers on the next show. Alright, so I'm gonna get into a bit of news right now. This week, not this week, but a few weeks ago at New York Comic-Con, there was a couple things said about Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels is a new animated TV show coming in fall 2014. It's gonna be produced by Dave Filoni, who is a veteran at this. He was trained by George Lucas himself and did the Clone Wars. In this, it was released that a new villain is going to be called the Inquisitor. What do you guys think about this new Inquisitor, Matthew?
Well, personally, Lachlan, I'm kind of gonna cut you off here a little bit because that is actually part of our discussion section with the question about the Inquisitor. But I can say a little bit more news if you want. Well, recently, actually, we have already been announced that the director of Episode 7, I'm just cutting you off because the discussion today, guys, which Lockie forgot to mention, but the discussion today is...
The discussion is going to be about Star Wars Rebels, as well as the Clone Wars bonus content, which will be coming out later this year.
Yeah, so that's what our discussion is going to be, so we're not going to touch too much on that, but for news, I think the big news this week has been, so far, that Michael Arndt, is that correct?
Yeah, he was the screenwriter.
The screenwriter for Star Wars Episode 7, or the reported screenwriter, has been fired. Well, they say he's been released, or relieved of duty, but basically that means he's been fired. So there's quite a lot of speculation about why that would be, and apparently the new screenplay is going to be done by who, Aiden?
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams
and Lawrence Kasdan, who did 5 and 6.
So
well, that's good news.
Very excited about this news. Also, some more news is, there was more released about Star Wars Rebels, of course, but we will talk about that later in the discussion section. Overall, there wasn't very much news this week in general. Star Wars is kind of lying low for a little while. We're expecting to get more news in a little while.
Hopefully.
Also, can I add something? I think it was confirmed that there are going to be 2 Darth Vader TV movies. Whether they will be animated or live action, we do not know yet, but next year, along with Rebels. So maybe as a kind of prelude to that show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that too.
Yeah.
I think it was more sort of a rumor rather than actual news.
I think it was confirmed though. Maybe.
Was it? Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm kind of speculative about this because we've seen Darth Vader in 4 films, only the end of Ep 3, but he's kind of a forefront character, so I wouldn't want to go too much into his background story. I would prefer to see a more background character that you don't hear much about, but just looks awesome.
Sort of like Yoda, actually. See, I wouldn't really like to see a background story for Yoda necessarily. I think the ability to speculate and have the fans be a part of kind of like the trying to figure it out is a nice aspect of Star Wars that has been there for a long time. However, we have seen Darth Vader in one other place, if I may add. We did see Darth Vader very briefly in a Clone Wars episode.
That's true. That was, I believe, Season 3, Episode 15, Ghosts of Mortis.
Yeah, that was in the Mortis trilogy where actually Anakin Skywalker was revealed his future.
Which is, yeah, and it was quite a big twist, I think, for the fans. I mean, he forgot about it later, but it was quite interesting, I think. Is there any other news?
I think that's it. Alright guys, we're gonna go into the discussion. This discussion is led by Aiden Beasley. Thank you very much, guys.
Go.
Okay, so the discussion this week mainly is going to be about both of Dave Filoni's shows, The Clone Wars, and also the new one coming up next year, Star Wars Rebels. So about The Clone Wars, it was recently announced by Dave Filoni that we will have bonus content. Season 6, the episodes that were produced and are made so far, are going to be released probably early next year, in the spring, I would say. So, what do you guys think about this?
Well, we have our own mic, Aiden. Well, I'm quite happy about the fact that we are going to be getting bonus content. I think that's a cool thing to have. Right, Lucky? I think
Well, I mean, we left off in Season 5 with a lot of unanswered storylines. We saw Darth Maul alive and captured by Sidious, but we don't know what happens to him. We saw Ahsoka Tano leaving the Jedi Temple, but we don't know what happens to her. We have a lot of unanswered questions, which I hope will be answered in the bonus content. We have had a trailer for the bonus content, which has shown Yoda, Plo Koon, and possibly Order 66, so I'm very excited about what it might tie in.
Yeah, what we've seen so far definitely looks cool. We've seen a couple different trailers. There was one, let's go through them all. There was one released in March, way back then, that had Order 66, I think. It had the 501st, Anakin, and 2 other Jedi. And it also had a villain that returned from earlier in the show, Admiral Trench.
yeah, I think in that episode, I think they released that little clip of that episode the day they announced that the Clone Wars would no longer be a airing TV show on Cartoon Network, at least, or on any platform apart from like digital producing of the final episodes of the Clone Wars, the first ones of Season 6. Also, the second trailer or clip they provided us was the Yoda one, wasn't it?
Yes, it featured Yoda and Anakin. Yoda was in the medical bay of the Jedi Temple for some reason. We can assume he might have been injured in battle, and he said he had to go somewhere. He talked to Anakin, and he asked Anakin to kind of cover his tracks. And that's basically all we saw from that, but Dave Filoni also did some concept art for that arc, so that's looking good too.
So yeah, we have certain speculations, I think, of where Yoda's sort of going. I mean, would you like to discuss that? We can sort of discuss what we thought about that one.
Yeah, well, why don't we go through all of them first, and then once we're done, we can discuss it. So the next one, I think, was the Plo Koon clip, which featured the Wolf Pack, Commander Wolf, Plo Koon, and it looked like they had
have Rex too.
Yes, it did have Rex, and it featured a fairly large army on an unknown planet with a dust storm searching for something. We don't know exactly what it was, but Dave Filoni did say it had something to do with Cypher Diaz.
Cypher Diaz being the supposed one Jedi who ordered the creation of the clone army. Also, we found, when Plo Koon was searching, he found a destroyed ship, or the remains of one, and on the floor he found a lightsaber, a working lightsaber, which was quite interesting. So should we recap back? Alright, go back to the Order 66. Order 66, we saw the 501st fighting against the droid army. We saw Rex and Fives, a couple new Jedi, and then randomly this one clone. Aiden, do you know his name?
That was Tup, I think, from the Umbara episodes.
From the Umbara episodes, he just went up and shot the Jedi. He said, good soldiers always follow orders before shooting a Jedi. He seemed to get some sort of transmission before doing so. Matthew, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think it was quite interesting because like you saw him kind of tapping his helmet. He was hearing it, but he was kind of confused. He didn't get it. He didn't understand why that order was also being given. It was kind of strange because none of the other clones got that order. So it could have been a malfunction, really. Mm-hmm. It could have been something small that Palpatine just said, oh, Order 66 for them, for that one person, or that one group. But I think, and the fact that he was so brainwashed into saying, okay, I follow orders, I do whatever they say. I know when we are in episode 3, we see Cody does the same thing. And I think one other thing that we're sort of interested in as a group, at least so far, has been what happens to Rex. I mean, Rex, this whole time, he's been such a loyal friend of Anakin. Will he side by Anakin when Anakin is dark? Or will he possibly, and this is one thing that I've discussed with you guys previously, will he leave the clone army? As we have seen in previous expanded universe books, many clones have left and joined Rebellion. Is there a possibility that we could possibly see an Ahsoka Tano Rex team up afterwards?
Yeah, it was actually quite interesting that none of the other clones seemed to get that transmission. I kind of wonder if maybe it wasn't Order 66.
Well, we don't have any definite proof that it was Order 66. Dave Filoni said it would tie into Order 66, the episode that this takes place in, but we don't know that's what it was. It could have been a prototype for that, but whatever it was hard to read Tuck's expression. It was as if he was confused, but he decided to follow orders no matter what. And
which we had seen previously on the Umbara arc, when he truly would follow orders to the last, even to death. We also saw, after that, Fives tackled Tuck to the ground and took him away. Anakin, if you looked closely, Anakin, this was after Season 5 when Ahsoka had left. Anakin's eyes, he looks sad, he looks angry, he looks confused. It looks like the dark side to me.
Yes, and also, the whole Ahsoka leaving thing could really add to the fact that he does turn to the dark side eventually.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if it saddens him, pushes him more towards the brink of, I guess, total destruction. Continuing on, we see at the very end Admiral Trench. Now, we have not seen Admiral Trench, was it season...
That would be Season 2, and let me give a little recap for Admiral Trench as a character. He is, if you don't remember, he was in one episode, half of one episode. He was a separatist commander aboard this huge dreadnought, and they were doing this space battle above Christophsis. And this episode was a prequel to the Clone Wars movie. It happened right before, and it kind of set up that whole battle that takes place in the first part of the movie. So Admiral Trench basically looks like this spider. He has this trench coat on, that's his name, and he has, I think, 8 arms.
Yeah, but in this episode, I think he comes back with a robotic body, like a slightly different body to what he would have had in Season 2, sorry.
Yeah, because in Season 2, we saw him, get killed. Obviously not, but his ship was destroyed. So his return is somewhat interesting, because in Season 2 he seemed to be a very cunning villain. He had a very strong mind, a very cunning mind. He was good at tactics, and he nearly completely killed Anakin, 10 times. So this is very interesting. And he says, is it General? He says Count Dooku will be interested to see this when he sees the clone kill the Jedi.
So wait a minute, we know that Dooku's still alive during this episode, which means it can't be Order 66.
Exactly. So that's quite interesting. Next we're going to get into the Yoda trailer. Matthew, do you want to say a few words on that?
Well, yeah, I can slightly describe the Yoda trailer. Basically, we start off in the Jedi Temple's medical center, and Yoda is on his bed. It's a very clean area, but you see that it gives an almost sort of communist feel to it, I thought, looking at it from a sort of political point of view, at least, from within the Jedi Temple. You see the 2 guards at the door. No one's going out or going in without permission. Permission from who? The Jedi Council. Now, what I believe has happened, at least my theory is, that the Jedi Council, due to an injury or something that has happened to Master Yoda, has deemed him unable to make decisions so far, so they've sent him to medical center with his supposed injury or problem, and they won't let him out, and they won't let him make the decision to come out.
That's good. I never thought about it that way. I thought he was injured in battle or something. But we don't really know what happened to Yoda. Again, Dave Filoni is very vague with all these trailers. He doesn't give a lot of background info. But yeah, that's basically what happened. And Matthew, would you like to continue?
Just a little bit, and then I'll hand over to Lachlan. So basically, Anakin comes in to check on Master Yoda, and we know throughout the movies Anakin has been very close to Master Yoda. I think Anakin views Master Yoda as quite of a kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, you use him as sort of like his inspiration, his grandfather figure, if you would, if Obi-Wan is sort of his father figure. And I think Yoda comes and he asks him, and I've never seen Yoda sort of this way. I mean, Yoda's like trying to go against the Jedi Order. It's almost as if Yoda knows what's coming. He knows what's up. He knows that things aren't going very well. So he asks Anakin's help, and Anakin takes him out for a walk. And then he sends Yoda in a ship, and Yoda exits into hyperspace and flies out, with the help of R2, of course. But now I have my one theory about this, but I'll let Lockie talk a little bit, and I'll give my sort of theory on this.
So I'm gonna go back a little. When Yoda is in the medical bay and the Jedi Council deem him unable to make decisions, I don't see it as much as a physical thing as much as mental. My belief is that, my theory, he might have been having a few visions. He may have tried to discuss them with the Council, but the Council was maybe too locked in their ways. I think he may have seen what we see in the events of Revenge of the Sith. Maybe not the full plot, but I think he may have seen a darkness, possibly a Sith Lord, and the Council thought, who knows, it could be mental sickness. He deemed him unable to make decisions. I think they were honestly just too afraid to accept the fact that Yoda could be having these visions. So when Anakin helps him to escape, I think he might be going to either check some of his visions out, or go to Dagobah. When, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, he goes off in his ship to Dagobah. My belief is he knew where he was going. He had a base set up in Dagobah. I believe maybe he could have, in this arc, gone to Dagobah to set up a home, set up a base, in case something happened. He may have not fully understood or believed his visions, but he was taking precautions. I think he was getting ready just in case, because at the end of Revenge of the Sith, when he goes off, he goes to Dagobah. And I believe that was, he already knew where he was going. So that's my theory, Matthew.
You see, my theory is quite similar. I think we sort of discussed this and came to this conclusion together a few months ago even. When, after it was released, the clip of Yoda. I think one big thing that is sort of coming to me is, what if he did see these visions? What if he did try and bring it to the Council? What if he thought there was a threat from, like, an Emperor Sidious, or a Emperor Palpatine, or Darth Sidious? If he saw these things, right, I would suspect that he would ask Anakin, okay, I need to go away. I need a moment. What if Emperor Palpatine also set him up? What if Emperor Palpatine sort of said, oh, you're putting accusations against me, and pushes the Jedi Council? We've seen how the Jedi Council can be easily pushed. I mean, during the last arc of the Season 5, I mean, with Ahsoka, the Jedi Council is basically being pushed around by Tarkin, which I really like Tarkin in Clone Wars personally. I like his character. I've always liked Tarkin in general. But I think that was quite interesting. And I think if he did see darkness, he would want to go to Dagobah. He would set up a base there. He would search things. And my other thing, which you guys haven't heard from me yet, but it's sort of an idea I've been bouncing back and forth with myself. It's quite a creative thought I've thought personally. But what if Qui-Gon Jinn came to Yoda?
As a Force Ghost?
As a Force Ghost. We have seen Qui-Gon Jinn as a Force Ghost previously in the Clone Wars.
In Mortis, yeah.
In Mortis, right? What if he came to Yoda and he warned him? And then he goes to the Jedi Council and says, oh, I met Qui-Gon Jinn as a Force Ghost. At that point in time, they're not really big into Force Ghosts and such. They're not into that thing, maybe. Maybe they don't agree with what he's saying. Maybe they think he's hallucinating. Maybe that could be his mental instability that they're talking about.
Yeah, because it was only truly Obi-Wan and Yoda who seemed to find out this Force Ghost thing before the events of, like, during the prequels. That was not so big in the Jedi Council. I think the Jedi Order itself. I think Qui-Gon probably trained Obi-Wan and Yoda to truly master and become one with the Force. So I think that's a very good theory, Matthew. I see it's very plausible, and who knows, we might see when the arc comes out.
And I can see the Clone Wars doing that. I mean, we've watched all the Clone Wars seasons. I've watched most of the episodes. I think Aiden's watched all of them, if not most of them, and so has Lachlan. And I think we've seen many times how this could quite possibly happen.
Yeah, can I add something? I think for the Yoda arc, what they said is very possible, and it's very good stuff. Also, I think there are things they need to tie up in the Clone Wars, and Dave Filoni said this arc with Yoda would do some of that. And that is Mother Talzin. She's still out there, she's still powerful, and even though she doesn't have the Night Sisters anymore, I think there are ways of her coming to power. What if Yoda has a vision of her coming to power as well as Palpatine? So maybe he wants to go take her out for good. Because I can see that.
That could be quite possible too, I think. Do we want to move on to the next question?
Yeah, I'll go to the next part. I think there's one other thing we need to cover about the bonus content, and that is the Clovis arc of Season 5. Now, a little background information. This was cut out of Season 5. It was going to be a 3-part series of episodes with Senator Rush Clovis from Season 2's episode Senate Spy. And it was going to feature Padme and Anakin, and also the bounty hunter Imbo, which is a fan favorite, played by Dave Filoni. So this arc was going to be in Season 5, but it was cut out to make room for the Youngling arc. So, we've got this whole other arc that is featured inside the bonus content, for sure, about Clovis. What do you think about this, Lachlan?
The Clovis arc interests me personally because of Embo. Embo has been one of my favorite characters since he first appeared in the Clone Wars. He has great talent as a bounty hunter. What was it that Dooku said? Your tally marks are only rivaled by that of Cad Bane, which is quite an impressive feat. He's very good at acrobatics and he's like gymnastics and flexibility. When we see him in this clip from the Clovis arc, he has tried to assassinate Clovis, and it appears maybe Amidala.
Yeah, we don't know who he's going after. But Padme, we've seen a lot of assassination attempts on her life before. Episode 2 was one of those times. So, very interesting stuff. We see a scene all the way back to 2 years ago in the Season 5 trailer before they made the decision to include the Youngling arc, which has Imbo using his hat as a snowboard down this snowy mountain, chasing them.
But I have one thought. Who could have hired Imbo? And what would their motives be?
Yeah, it could have been the Separatists, again, maybe Dooku. It could have been Sidious personally. We see Cad Bane working for Sidious in Season 2.
Or it could even be an outside group. Perhaps a crime syndicate.
The Black Sun, maybe?
Wasn't there a character who kind of fell in love with Senator?
That would be Clovis. That's in
Clovis.
Season 2, Senate Spy.
Do you think Clovis could possibly be behind it?
He could. It looked as if Imbo was chasing them, though.
Yes,
But,
I mean, like, if Anakin's with Padme sort of rejected him in a way, correct?
Yeah.
And I mean, Anakin is with her, and he doesn't like either of them anymore.
This could be a very interesting scenario because no one knows about Anakin and Padme.
And the Clone Wars has been known to twist up a few stories, so they could do this in a good way. And I think I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they had some sort of a twist like that. But of course, there's many different options, and this is just speculation.
Yeah. So one more thing about Clone Wars. We have an arc reported by Dave Filoni, the last one in this whole bonus content season, to be about bounty hunters, also featuring fan favorite character Hondo Ohnaka, also featuring Boba Fett and Cad Bane. So guys, there's been no trailer about this, but what do you think so far?
Okay, well, when we see Hondo last, he has the Slave One. When you said that Boba Fett and Hondo Ohnaka are going to be in the same arc, and we see Boba Fett in the original trilogy with Slave One, he has to get it back. Could it possibly be Boba with his bounty hunter team infiltrating Hondo's base and salvaging the Slave One?
It's very possible.
Could
it
it be
be great to see?
Possibly just not main characters, like it's not Republic versus Separatist this time, it's bounty hunter versus pirate.
That would be very interesting. We've seen Sith versus pirate.
I think it would be very twisting because they have no loyalty. So they can be unpredictable. There could be traitors on both sides. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I would really enjoy seeing episodes like that. I think that is one of the things that I really, I think that Clone Wars thrives on is its multiple, and Star Wars in general, is its multiple sort of side stories. I mean, the main story, I think people agree, is between the light side and the dark side, but I think not most of the story. It is the most common, yes, but I think there's so many other rivalries and stories that tie into different aspects of Star Wars that I think is really shown quite prolifically within the Clone Wars, which I really like about it, which is one of the things I was really sad about when it was cancelled. Next question, maybe?
Okay, so moving on from the Clone Wars. By the way, just a closing for that, it will come out early 2014. We don't know when yet, but at least we have a certainty.
We also don't know how yet. We don't know if it's going to be DVD release or digitally, like iTunes.
But we do know that we're getting it. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is Star Wars Rebels, which is an upcoming TV show, also animated, and also headed by executive producer Dave Filoni. So, first of all, at Comic-Con a few weeks ago, we got a trailer, really short. It was kind of reminiscent of the beginning of Episode 4. And we also got the first look at a new villain, the Inquisitor. So what do you guys think about him so far?
Well, we didn't see any, in the trailer itself, we did not see any beings. We saw simply a desert planet. It looked like Tatooine. And then we saw what we saw in the events of
and at the beginning of
Episode 4 of the Star Destroyer coming over. About the Inquisitor, we didn't see him in the trailer. We just saw, like paintings or pictures of him. He does look quite interesting. He appears to have a lightsaber.
His lightsaber was really interesting. It looked like the blade was almost... The blades were double, like Darth Maul's.
Yeah, it was a double lightsaber.
Yeah.
And it appeared to have a strange-looking hilt, with kind of like a circle guard around his hand. He looked quite menacing and evil. Matthew, what comments do you have on him?
Well, again, there was the announcement of the Inquisitor at Comic-Con, correct? Dave Filoni announced it, and we were given, I think it was only one photo. It was a photo of the Sith. I say Sith Inquisitor. We don't know it is a Sith, however, in the past, all Inquisitors have been Siths, technically.
I think we should just call him the Imperial
Inquisitor. The Imperial Inquisitor.
Because this isn't the first Inquisitor we've heard of. There have been expanded universe Inquisitors as well as in video games.
Yeah. So what do I think of him? Well, we know that his species is,
I think that's, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's from Utapau, from the planet Utapau in Episode 3.
It's the species that lives on Utapau. We see them in Episode 3 of the Epic Saga. I mean, to me, he looks slightly cartoonish in a way. He doesn't look like the kind of character who would really scare me necessarily. I think he's the sort of bad guy. He's less of a Darth Sidious. He's more, or a Darth Maul. He's more of a betrayed Federation.
He kind of reminded me of Ventress. I think he might be the Ventress of Rebels.
That's possible. Also,
doing the sort of dirty work for a higher up.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also think that when you were saying his double-bladed lightsaber and the hand guard, it's very, very reminiscent of Darth Malgus. If you don't know who that is, that was one of the greatest Sith Lords of the Old Republic. Darth Malgus' lightsaber was a single-bladed lightsaber, but it had a very similar... It's not actually a hand guard, I don't believe. It also goes over the blade slightly. But I think that was... I think they sort of pulled in bits of the sort of feeling of some of the Star Wars Republic, as well as mixing it in with the Empire. I think also something everybody really focused on the Sith Inquisitor. No one really focused on the 3 stormtroopers in the background. Now we see that they have Mark III armor, which is the
classic stormtrooper armor.
Classic stormtrooper armor. We had Mark 1 and 2 in the Clone Wars. They have Mark 3, obviously. One thing I've been wondering, might we know one of them?
I think it's very possible to see clones from the Clone Wars, kind of older and more experienced in Rebels, maybe.
But there was an interview done by Rebel Force Radio with Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is the executive producer of Star Wars Rebels, and he did say that we are not going to see very many clones in Rebels, or at least not in Stormtrooper form. He said by this point, because the clones are aging twice as fast as a normal man, so they will be much older. He said they would be possibly training the next set of Stormtroopers. Stormtroopers being regular human beings. But they could be trainers, which could be quite interesting, seeing them not fighting, but training on the next generation.
Kind of taking on the role that those bounty hunters had in the Clone Wars.
Exactly. Which would be quite interesting. Also, he said, Matthew, about your comment about it being cartoony, he said in this early concept art, it is cartoony, but once they digitalize it, it's going to become more 3D.
And at the beginning of episode, just to clarify what I was saying about that, yes, the image is a pre-production image. It's just sort of a sketch almost that's been colored in. That sounds kind of rudimentary, but whatever. But I was saying cartoony. I think from what I've seen or heard so far, I have a feeling that the whole of the Rebels arc is going to be a lot more reminiscent of the Clone Wars Season 1, maybe Season 2, rather than the Clone Wars 4 and 5. I think it's going to be aimed more at the younger generation. I think the point of that was sort of to bring in the younger generation into the older Star Wars. So, yeah, I think that's about it. Right?
Okay, also we have a few things I noticed. Most of the design and a lot of concept art was released for Rebels. That's the main thing that came out at Comic-Con. A lot of vehicles. We got some really cool TIE fighter designs. Also a ship called the Ghost. And I think many of these are actually based off of the original vintage action figures, which is kind of cool. So, okay, moving on. Next question. What do you guys think about the Star Wars Rebels trailer that premiered? It was really simple, but what did you think?
I personally did not like it. If you see it, it has a voiceover, which it annoyed me. It annoyed me a lot. It also didn't show very much. As Matthew said, it seemed to be aimed at the younger generation more, which is something that might be different from Clone Wars. Clone Wars was for the younger generation, but had a lot of aspects that much older people liked. I think from what we've seen so far, this looks more like a cartoon that you would let your 5 or 6-year-old watch on Sunday morning.
Yeah, or even 7 or 8-year-old or 9-year-old, 10-year-old. I mean, that's sort of what ticked me off. It was that they sort of took the voice of the guy who does all of their like Disney advertising. Star Wars Rebels coming this fall to Disney XD. And at the beginning, I just feel like, I think, at least with this trailer, it makes me feel like they're not taking it as a serious Star Wars thing, which I really, really want it to be. I mean, some people argued that quite possibly the Clone Wars was going to be childish, but we saw that it developed. This, from the get-go, it is ultra childish, even more than the Clone Wars was when it started. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we went back and we watched Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie, the original movie that came out before the episodes, and we enjoyed it. But it wasn't that childish, but it was quite fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like Clone Wars had the unique ability of getting a lot of audiences into it. It was fun for kids, but we really enjoyed it. I'd say it ranks higher than perhaps the prequels.
Yeah, I think it had something for any audience. The prequels was kind of one type of story. The Clone Wars had stuff for kids, had stuff for the old trilogy fans.
I think
had
also
something for prequel fans.
Also, what we liked about the Clone Wars is it included many of the characters we had seen before but not really heard of, such as like heard of but not seen before, like Cad Bane. We had somewhat heard of him, but he was truly like introduced in the Clone Wars. We saw like Boba as a young child making his way in the universe. We saw General Grievous, we saw more of Dooku, we saw Death Watch, I mean we saw Mandalorians. We saw so much that that just expanded our universe.
And yeah, and also as Aiden just recently said, we also saw Chewbacca, which I thought tied in the originals too. So you want to go on to the next question?
All right. So moving on from that, what do you hope to see in Rebels? Name a few things, Lucky.
I honestly don't know. I don't know if Rebels is going to start over, or if it will kind of be a continuation of Clone Wars. I think it's going to be a start over, but I think Dave Filoni being in charge, and he is a fan himself, and he knows what fans want, he may add some characters that we have seen before. I'd say most likely would be bounty hunters and pirates.
And he said we would be seeing bounty hunters, definitely.
Because the Republic fell, but the bounty hunters did not. The bounty hunters continued on. So that's why I hope to see bounty hunters. I also think it's quite a high possibility.
All right.
That's my hope. Matthew?
Well, yeah, and just going back quickly on the last thing, because you sort of missed something. Remember in the original series, we also had bounty hunters. And the original series, when it came out, the prequels and the Clone Wars also sort of reflected on the characters from the bounty hunters from the original series. Now, what do I hope to see in Rebels? I hope to see something very similar to the Clone Wars. I hope to see the good things that I felt were in the Clone Wars. I hope to see good storylines. I hope to see great characters, great character development, and just continuation. I think also Clone Wars had a great knack for picking great voice actors. I love that. I hope they bring some of them back again for Rebels. We also heard sort of news. We also had an announcement about someone who would be in Star Wars Rebels as a voice actor.
Yes, that would be David Oyelowo. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his last name, but he looks pretty cool. So he'll also be in Episode 7.
Yeah, he's acted in like Super 8, which is another J.J. Abrams movie, right? And he acted in Red Tails. I watched both of those movies. Those are quite good. And also he'll be acting in Episode 7. But that's a discussion for another time. What do I hope to see? I hope to see all the good things I had in the Clone Wars, but with an original trilogy feel. I hope for it to be something more aimed at the teen rather than the 9-year-olds. Or even if it's aimed at like 13-year-olds, I'd much rather have that than have it aimed at a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, maybe 11-year-old. Because I think that would be a nice thing, at least for me.
Completely agree. Alright, what do I hope to see in Rebels? Pretty much the same as Matthew. I hope it's a good mixture of the Clone Wars goodness and the prequel goodness, and also the original trilogy flavor, and the stuff they had in there was really good. So if they combine that with the Clone Wars, I think we would have perfect stuff. So I would like to see some characters from the whole saga, the main characters, such as maybe Obi-Wan joining the rebellion, helping a little bit. Also maybe Boba Fett. We know he could be prominent in that time. Also, maybe characters like Death Watch. Bo-Katan's still out there. I would like to see more of her. Maul, of course. We have no idea what happens to him. So, lots of things like this.
Yeah, I have to agree. Clone Wars was more focused on the prequels. This new TV show, Star Wars Rebels, could be focused more on the original trilogy. We could see some of those characters. We could have some of that feel, which I would enjoy.
Yeah, okay, next question. What do you expect to see in Rebels?
I honestly don't know. I personally think it will be a fresh start, separate from the Clone Wars. I think we may see some characters from the Clone Wars, but quite different. As I said, we could see bounty hunters. I'd say that's a higher possibility than seeing, say, Ahsoka or Obi-Wan, just because they were part of the Republic fell, but bounty hunters, they could have a place in Star Wars Rebels. The Empire could maybe hire them to find Jedi. The Empire could hire them to find Rebels. The Rebels could hire them to do jobs for them. This might also be a time where smuggling could flourish. Han Solo was a smuggler.
And at the beginning of Episode 4.
So who knows? We might see Han Solo because the Rebels need weapons smuggled. I'd say at this stage, the rebels are very poor, not sufficiently funded. They would need weapons smuggled in so that they don't have to pay extra back to you.
Wow, what do I expect? I really don't want to sound like a pessimist when it comes to this, but I'm honestly not very optimistic about Rebels, seeing what has come so far out of the studio, out of Dave Filoni, out of what they've said. What do I expect? I expect a younger version of the Clone Wars, probably aimed around the ages of 11, maybe 10-year-olds. I expect that we will see a couple of cameos from different characters. I also expect that we will have quite a few, we'll have some people coming back from the Clone Wars to do voice work. But I don't think we will have the same feeling as the Clone Wars. I don't think it's going to be like the Clone Wars. I don't think you can replace the Clone Wars personally. Honestly, if it was up to me, the Clone Wars would still be going on into season 500. Like, literally, I don't think you have a limit of stories you can fit in with the Clone Wars, I think. So, honestly, yeah, that's about it. I really am not that optimistic about it when it comes to Rebels. I would love it to be great, and I'm just praying and asking that it does turn out better and it proves me wrong, but for now I'm not keeping my hopes up that much.
Okay, that's very good. I agree with most of it. But again, we have not seen many things, only one little Disney trailer. So it could still be very good, we don't know yet. But also it has a good chance of being not as good as the Clone Wars was. And I don't think anything could beat the Clone Wars. It could be very different though, because we know it's around a central group of characters instead of many different story arcs. So, again, I think the doors are still open, a lot of stuff could happen, but Dave Filoni's in charge, so I still have pretty high hopes. Alright, the next question is, do you think characters from Clone Wars will cross over, and if so, who would you like to, and what scenario will they be in?
Yeah, as I said before, I'm sticking with the bounty hunters. And I already stated what I think, that they could be smuggling things into the Rebels, they could be hunting down Rebels, they could be hunting down Jedi, they could be hired by Rebels. We honestly don't know. But that's what I would most want to see.
Yeah, I think for me, the character I'd most like to see is Ahsoka, personally. I think Ahsoka, possibly, Death Watch.
Yes, Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan and the Death Watch would also be a great thing to see. Cross over to Rebels. And last but not least, Maul. I think those are my three top. I'd love to see Bounty Hunters, as Lachlan said, but I think those three are my top. I think, again, Maul could be used to train this Inquisitor. I think that would be a nice twist. In that Palpatine sort of manipulates him into not being an apprentice anymore, just being a trainer. Or like a teacher. I think, also, we could see, again, the Mandalorians. Maybe they could help out the Rebels. You never know. You could have the, Maul. Again, I said training people. I said, Ahsoka Tano. She could be with the Rebels. For all we know, anything is possible. At least that's what I'd like to see. Though I doubt that a lot of that will be in it. Anyway.
Okay, what characters do I want to see? I'll go through 5. Darth Maul. Love to see Darth Maul. It's always great when he turns up, and Sam Witwer is one of my favorite voice actors, so I hope he could return too. Bo-Katan. I really like her as a character. One of my favorites. Obi-Wan. I'm a really big fan of Obi-Wan, and I think he could have a great part to play in the formation of the rebellion. Boba Fett. I really like Boba Fett, and this is the time when he's coming to power. So maybe for the first time, putting on his father's armor, driving the Slave One, all that kind of stuff. And Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka could fit perfectly into this world. So, okay. Last question. What's
you don't mind any kind of comment?
Yeah.
You don't drive the Slave One.
Fly. Yes.
Okay, continue.
Alright. What's one thing you don't want to see in Rebels?
Well, since we haven't seen any episodes of Rebels yet, I can't say what I don't want to see, because we haven't seen anything. I don't want to see Star Wars become something like Bugs Bunny, for instance, where you run off a cliff and you're just standing in midair, and then you look down and then you fall. I don't want to see Star Wars become that. I don't want the stormtrooper to be running after the rebel, jump off the ship, look down, and then fall. I want to see Star Wars be upheld as what it is. Amazing, epic story. I don't want it kidified.
Yeah. Well, personally, Aiden, I think that, as Lockie said, I don't want Star Wars to become kidified. I think they are posing Rebels as a serious thing. It's not like when we were announced Detours, which will quite possibly be returning, which we're quite happy about, or, for instance, Robot Chicken or any of those shows. I don't think they posed themselves as something serious. I think they were meant to be taken as a joke. What I don't like is if Rebels is meant to be taken serious, but ends up becoming a joke. That is one thing I really do not want to see in Rebels.
I'm keeping an open mind, but one thing I do not want to see is childish arcs like we had in the Clone Wars. Like the Gascon arc, completely pointless. There were some good moments, good acting, but it was pointless. I don't want to see that kind of thing. Also, there was an arc, I think in Season 4 with C-3PO and R2. It was good to see. Season 3 was that? Okay, it was good to see them together, but I mean, it was pointless. I don't want to see anything.
No, that was Season 4.
Yeah, Season 4, Mercy Mission and Nomad Droids.
And also, like, the Underwater series, remember those ones?
Well, those were pretty good.
They were good. It was, I think it was the premiere of Season 4. I thought they were slightly out of shape, and I wouldn't want to see other Rebels episodes all following in their footsteps.
I mean, Clone Wars had its good episodes and it had its bad episodes. I think we may see that in Rebels, but I think what we're trying to say here is we don't want to see all bad episodes. We can't have all perfect episodes, but we can have more good than we can have bad. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, guys, so that was our discussion section with Aiden heading it. Thanks, Aiden. That was great. I had fun discussing that. Did you, Lachlan?
Yeah, it was great.
Well, thank you very much, Aiden. And next section up is the closing section. First, I'm going to recap the discussion we had. Basically, our discussion was sort of about Rebels. It was led by Aiden Beasley. And, I think we kind of agreed on most of our points there. We sort of had different hopes and feelings about what it's going to be like, but, I mean, that's what we're here to do. We're here to discuss and put across certain viewpoints from true Star Wars fans. Okay, this week we have the question of the week. It's a question we asked, or Aiden asked us, and Aiden answered. The question of the week is, what will you like to see in Star Wars Rebels? Now, you can email us with your answer, or you can send us a Facebook message. Our email is HolocronVault@gmail.com. Quite easy. Our Facebook page is www.facebook.com/H Holocron, V Vault. So you can like us on Facebook. You can, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. I think our YouTube channel is something like www.youtube.com/HolocronVault2. But we'll have links available around this audio clip or video. So yeah, that's basically it. Fact of the week this week. I think the fact of the week this week is sort of, we haven't really discussed what we really want to put across as the fact of the week. But, I'm thinking fact of the week is, since we were previously discussing the bonus content for the Clone Wars Season 6, that this is something we discovered, and it is quite amazing. You know General Grievous, right?
Yep.
And you know, whose ship does Plo Koon find, Aiden?
Plo Koon's was, Sifo Dyas, I think.
Sifo Dyas' ship. We have found out that, in fact, Grievous was taken as a almost dead creature, infused with a cyborg body, and then had Sifo Dyas' blood pumped into his veins.
This is, of course, expanded universe.
But what could that do in the episode 6? I think that could be very, very interesting. What do you think about this fact, guys?
Yeah, this could be very, very interesting twist. Because we don't know very much about Sifo Dyas. We know that he ordered the creation of a clone army. But what happened to him after that?
Yeah, I mean, well, I sort of know they sort of froze him and froze his blood source once he died, but apart from that, we don't really know.
Yeah, I think that article is very interesting, and I would like to see it, but that is strictly EU, and we do have a Clone Wars in-universe explanation for the creation of Grievous. That was that he chose to have that body. We also saw in the episode Layer of Grievous, Season 1, Episode 9, in his base, he had statues of him becoming a robot. So I think, even though there's a slight chance of what he said happening, it's kind of unlikely, but we will be seeing Sethadius, and maybe Grievous too.
Yeah, but I mean, it could still be. He could have said, yes, I will, because as we know, General Grievous was rejected by the Jedi Order because of his lack of sensitivity to the Force. So maybe he did that so that he could join the Sith. Or
Possibly.
the Separatists. Okay, so that was our fact of the week. Today is our quote of the week, too. So, our quote of the week, this week, it is the quote of the week because we're recording this on Sundays, and every Saturday at our school, they announce our personalized HolocronVault quote of the week. And this week's quote of the week was quite funny, and it is during episode 5 when Darth Vader approaches Luke and says, "Luke, I am your father." And
No, Luke.
Anakin,
I am your father.
And then Luke responds with, "No!" and goes on.
No!
That's impossible!
No!
They project this across our entire school. I know we're pretty awesome, but so that's our quote of the week. I know it's kind of silly and funny, but hey, it's nice to have a little bit of fun. So okay, now here's a serious part of the closing section. Now you may or may not know, but our mascot is the Black Jawa. And as last week or a couple of weeks ago, we gave you a chance to find the Black Jawa anywhere. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to get any good results, so we decided we would add some extra information. Previous to episode 4, the Black Jawa is not black. He is known as Sandy 5-Foot.
It is quite interesting. He is a 5-foot Jawa. This is exceptionally tall for a Jawa.
Yeah.
And he's called Sandy 5-Foot.
So yeah, how does he become the Black Jawa? Remember in episode 4, guys, when C-3PO throws a Jawa's body on the fire?
This is after they found the Sandcrawler destroyed by stormtroopers. He throws a Jawa onto the fire.
And that is Sandy 5-Foot, who was attacked during the attack, but he survives, and he is Black Jawa. In episode 6, we have sighted him. That's a clue. Go and find him, and again...
We see him he rose after they left from the pit with a black cloak. He became then the Black Jawa. We see him in episode 5,
Don't tell
6.
them, yeah, but don't tell them where in episode 5 or 6, because that's up to you guys at home to find. Go through the movies, watch them, and if you find the Black Jawa, report him to us.
We also
we've been looking for him for a while.
We also saw him in Ep 1 and 2 as Sandy 5-Foot. You see him next to Anakin, and he is up to Anakin's shoulders, which is obviously Sandy 5-Foot.
And we won't tell you where, but that's it. So thanks guys for watching. This has been the Holocron Vault, and we will see you hopefully next week. Bye guys, say bye.
For the Holocron Vault, I'm Eden Beasley.
And I'm Lachlan Hermiston.
And this is Matthew. Good night.